I'm positioned on scorched pier boards at daybreak, gazing at the remnants of my dad's sailboat, the one he devoted 3 years to refurbishing before cancer claimed him. The shell is a scorched skeleton, the mast fractured right in two, sagging into the water like a shattered backbone. Fiberglass fused into bizarre lumps. It's still emitting wisps of smoke. The odor strikes initially. Petrol and scorched plastic, synthetic and off-putting. Shattered safety panes crackle beneath my footwear. Overhead, birds twitter as if all is normal. They incinerated it because I refused to submit to our HOA tyrant. Believed it would crush me. Their gravest error ever. I didn't merely reconstruct. I locked their financial accounts, revealed their fraud, dispatched their leader to jail, and tore apart the entire rotten system. Before we dive in, share your thoughts. What would you do if your HOA wrecked something irreplaceable? Sue them, relocate, or unleash total war? And where are you tuning in from? How many of you are trapped under an HOA at this moment? My name is Garrett Holloway. I'm 54, a retired Coast Guard veteran with 28 years in search and rescue along the Carolina shores. 2 medals, more near misses than I'd like to count. I rescued a youngster from an overturned yacht amid a nor'easter in 2003, freezing and lifeless. We revived him. Experiences like that linger. I hung up my uniform at 52, used my inheritance to purchase this spot on Lake Thornton, a modest cabin, nothing extravagant, but it came with a pier and a vista that let you escape reality. The sailboat, the Horizon Runner, belonged to my father, a 1987 Morgan Island 41. Elegant curves, teak flooring, scented with polish and years of ocean breeze. Even after I hauled her to the lake, she required fixes when he died 5 years back. Cancer, relentless. He couldn't complete the restoration, so I stepped in. It consumed 3 years. I smoothed every bit of that hull manually. My fingertips still recall the roughness of 80 grit sandpaper and the aroma of teak oil under the morning rays. Swapped out the lines, overhauled the motor. It was healing, superior to any therapist. I'd labor on her through the day, then retreat to my workshop at night for carpentry endeavors. Crafted a bookcase for my daughter, some Adirondack seats, kept my hands occupied. I'm divorced. Nothing explosive, we simply drifted. And my daughter Bryn is 29, an architect in Raleigh. We're tight. She drops by monthly and things are solid, no drama. On weekends, I offered free sailing classes to neighborhood youngsters because my dad did the same for me. You hand it down. Life was straightforward, serene, precisely what I craved after 3 decades of high-stakes action and red tape. Then I encountered Darlene Vickridge. Darlene is 61, head of the Emerald Shores Homeowners Association for 11 years. Blonde bob that stays put in any breeze. High-end activewear ensembles likely pricier than my truck note. And this way of cocking her head and grinning with her lips but not her gaze when she's set to spoil your day. Oh, and she pilots a white Lexus SUV with a custom plate reading LVNYLAKE. Yeah, that sort. Emerald Shores is a 340-unit neighborhood encircling Lake Thornton, sort of gated. Fees run $320 monthly. My land predates the HOA's formation in 2003, so officially I'm exempt in some ways, but still bound by shared space regulations, whatever that entails. Darlene's take shifts based on if she favors you. Hint, she didn't favor me. Her influence is ironclad. Her sister Paige handles the finances. A fellow named Hank, who runs an HVAC firm, serves as VP. The remaining board members are golfing pals who approve her every whim. The HOA manages a $1.8 million yearly budget. That's hefty for grass maintenance and hall bookings. Darlene's notoriety, picky rule application is her forte. She'll cite your truck for overnight driveway parking, but her son's jacked-up Jeep with the loud pipes? Completely okay. She enforces uniform designs. Every home must be beige, tan, or gray. She outlawed unauthorized plants, which evidently covers veggie patches and anything beyond a boxwood shrub. Folks feared her, and I stayed indifferent since I minded my own, until she targeted my pier. 6 months prior to the blaze, a certified notice arrived. Darlene alleged my personal pier intruded 2 feet into the HOA-managed waterway. She insisted I trim it by spring or face a $5,000 penalty. I engaged a surveyor, shelled out $800. Findings: my pier sat fully within my titled shoreline. The HOA's chart was obsolete from 1998, predating boundary tweaks. I had proofs, approvals from 1995, the works. I submitted the proof at a routine board gathering. Darlene presided at the main table beneath buzzing fluorescent bulbs, the space reeking of stale Java and disinfectant. She scarcely glanced at my papers, just rapped her gavel with a dull thud and declared, "The board will examine this." They never bothered. Instead, the payback kicked off. Tow services summoned on my truck twice, despite legal parking. Nameless reports to county officials about unlicensed builds. Snide remarks at community barbecues. Some folks believe rules skip them. Then at the Independence Day bash, I caught her chatting with a developer friend near the barbecue. I was fetching ribs when her words drifted over the tunes. Once I remove that ugly dock, the parcel's value doubles for a demolition and redo. She meant my land. That's when I realized Darlene sought not obedience, but my exit. August arrived steamy and sticky, the sort of climate where inhaling feels like sucking through a damp cloth. I'd just returned from an extended weekend with Bryn in Raleigh. We dined at some locavore spot she adored. Spent Sunday at the produce market. Nice getaway. I felt at ease. That faded in about 30 seconds upon reaching my driveway. I strolled to the pier to inspect the Horizon runner, and my gut sank. Someone had vandalized the hull with spray paint. Drippy script in bright orange, "Welfare sailor on the left flank. Go home on the right." The coating was still sticky, recent, perhaps 6 or 7 hours old. I lingered there, the boards groaning underfoot, the stench of aerosol blending with the lake's mossy and fishy notes, and this icy fury lodged in my core. Not the fiery sort that prompts rash acts, the glacial kind that turns you systematic. I phoned the sheriff's office. Deputy Crowley arrived 40 minutes on. Solid man, former Marine. We'd shared brews at the VFW occasionally. He snapped pictures, filed a report, but his expression said it all. No observers, no surveillance. Garrett, apologies. Might have been juveniles. Juveniles lack the gate access to the marina zone, Tom. He eyed me steadily. You suspect HOA? I'm suspecting someone desires my departure. He nodded deliberately, shut his notebook. Stay low and install cameras, then softer, and perhaps consult an attorney. Unofficially, I've witnessed HOA panels pull worse than vandalism when they aim to oust someone. That very afternoon, the HOA blasted an email to all 340 residences. Headline, "Reminder on Community Watercraft Standards." The message was classic Darlene. Veiled hostility and legalese about how unattractive boats must adhere to aesthetic guidelines and how offenders would encounter rising penalties until conformity. She omitted my name. Unnecessary. All new. I perched at my kitchen table that evening, eyeing the orange marks still evident through the pane, and pondered my choices. I could wipe it away and feign ignorance. I could list and depart. Or I could apply what my dad instilled in the Coast Guard. When they attempt to drown you, you don't scoop out the flood. You locate the breach in their structure. I recalled a tip from my divorce case. My attorney detailing public records inquiries. Agencies, HOAs, even certain charities must reveal fiscal docs if you phrase it correctly. North Carolina's sunshine laws. Most ignore it. Most HOA leaders pray you ignore it. I snagged a domain that night. EmeraldShoreAccountability.com. $12. Set up a basic WordPress page. Simple design with a purpose declaration. Openness and equity for every Emerald Shores resident. Then I dug in. Initial entry, digitized surveyor report proving my pier stayed within bounds. I penned a concise overview in everyday terms. No jargon, pure facts. The HOA asserted my pier breached offset regs. A neutral expert disproved it. The board ignored the proof. Next entry, snapshots. Darlene's son's elevated Jeep stationed in their drive, blatantly defying the large vehicle reg she'd penalized at least a dozen others for. I skipped opinions, just juxtaposed the rule verbiage beside the image. Let folks connect dots. Third entry, and this one had my hands trembling on upload. I'd submitted that records request to the county 2 weeks prior, soon after the pier spat began. Some phrasing tweaks, but the clerk eventually forwarded a bundle of HOA contracts with area firms. Hidden within, $47,000 across 18 months disbursed to Vickridge Property Consulting for advisory work. Vickridge, as in Darlene Vickridge, her personal firm, charging the HOA $340 hourly, while she also pocketed a monthly allowance as prez, dipping twice from our collective funds. I uploaded the bills, everyone. My pointer lingered over publish for a solid minute. This was irreversible. Once out, Darlene would assault with full force. I pictured my dad's boat smeared in paint. I hit publish. By Thursday dawn, the site had circulated 2,300 times in regional Facebook circles. My inbox held 64 notes, some grateful, some inquiring, 3 labeling me foolish. Folks were furious. Comments exploded. Someone crafted a meme of Darlene's Lexus tag with the tagline, "Pilfering your cash." I chuckled so intensely, I sputtered my brew. Darlene summoned an urgent board session. Private, of course, but Paige, her sibling, the treasurer, exited the center appearing ashen and unsteady. I drove past by chance. She avoided my gaze. Friday evening, a certified envelope from Klein Group, attorneys at law, arrived, bulky, ornate stationery, paper weighty like vellum. Cease and desist order. Dismantle the site in 72 hours or confront a libel suit. The doc alleged false and harmful claims inflicting permanent damage to Mrs. Vickridge's standing and ventures. I perused it twice, then grinned because here's the defamation fact I'd gleaned from my split. Veracity is total protection. You can't litigate truth-telling regardless of reputational sting. And I possessed proofs for all. I digitized the letter, added it to the site with a fresh post titled, "They're suing threats for my honesty." Then I composed a reply on basic stock, printed and mailed certified. Dear Klein Group, I anticipate discovery. Pack your wallet. Regards, Garrett Holloway. That weekend, Darlene appeared at the community's wine and cheese event in the hall. I skipped it. Marisol Gutierrez rang me later, giggling uncontrollably. Marisol runs a gardening business, resides 3 blocks away, and Darlene had slapped her with a $2,000 fine last spring for hedge overgrowth. We'd vented over drinks once. She'd tracked the site devotedly. "Garrett, you should have witnessed it," Marisol said. She downed like 4 Chardonnays and began shouting. "Called you a threat. Said someone ought to school you." She voiced it publicly. Half the crowd caught it. Vanessa Cho taped it on her device. I'll forward the clip. I backed up that sound file in 3 spots. Monday morn, I mounted 2 4K cams on my pier. Cloud storage, motion notifications to my mobile, $400. Worth it. Darlene cruised by that night in her white Lexus. Decelerated to a creep, fixated on the cams for a solid 10 seconds, her features clear through the glass, lips compressed thin, jaw clenched. Then she floored it, rubber screeching on pavement like a kid in a fit. I reviewed the video later, the laptop's azure light bouncing off my kitchen glass. Her grip on the wheel showed white knuckles. She plotted something. I sensed it like an approaching gale from the sea, pressure fall, breeze change, that charged buzz before the initial bolt. I just couldn't gauge the severity. September ushered in chillier dawns and early autumn hues on the lakeside foliage. I was buffing a side table in my garage, one of those rote woodworking tasks that frees your mind to process in the shadows when the process server appeared. Young chap, no older than 25, seemed regretful handing the packet. "Sorry, dude. Just my gig. I get it. Appreciate it." I held off opening until he vanished. Lawsuit. The HOA sought $50,000 for image harm plus a ban on the site. The filing was 32 pages of juridical gibberish, but the core was clear. Darlene aimed to muzzle me and was ready to ruin me financially. The Klein Group, identical firm from the warning, repped the HOA, likely at $450 per hour, funded by our fees. The sarcasm hit hard. They proposed mediation 2 weeks on. I arrived at their urban HQ, all sleek metal and glass with awkward contemporary seats, and faced a polished lawyer who seemed to source his attire from NYC and his demeanor from a boardroom workshop. "Mr. Holloway," he stated, pushing a sheet over, "my clients offer leniency. Dismantle the site, cough up $10,000 for costs, ink a gag order, and it's over." I eyed the doc, eyed him. "Nah." "No," I replied. "See you in court." His grin wavered. "Mr. Holloway, victory's impossible. We hold far greater assets. Suits cost dearly. We can prolong this year's." I rose. "Then prepare for the long haul because I'm not agreeing, not paying, not silencing." I exited, a mix of dread and thrill surging. I lacked funds for counsel. I'd self-represent, so I had to master HOA regs fast. The following 3 weeks, immersed in library stacks and digital law archives. North Carolina Statutes, Chapter 47F, Planned Community Act, Robert's Rules, Charters, Covenants, Trustee Obligations. It was thick, dull as dirt, but I'm Coast Guard. We persist through toughness. And that's when I spotted Darlene's initial vulnerability. I was matching the HOA's online bylaws, ironically, with minutes from the past 3 years. Bylaws stated plainly, annual elections with open noms for all compliant owners. Ballots secret at a full assembly with 30 days warning. Minutes painted otherwise. No genuine votes in 3 years. Darlene's re-ups stemmed from proxy forms, pre-done slips she'd gathered house to house where owners signed and let her handle. I recalled her at my door 2 years prior, clipboard in hand, beaming, calling it a time-saver formality. But per statute 47F 3108, proxies for board votes are invalid unless they name the specific candidate. Darlene's were empty. She could have inserted anybody, even her pet. Her whole panel was invalid. I leaned back in the library seat, overhead lights droning, and that frosty contentment returned. This transcended my peer. This meant toppling a regime. I penned a recall form that evening. Per bylaws, I required 20% owner signs, 68 folks, to trigger a special vote. Printed 200, began canvassing post-supper the next night. Tougher than anticipated. People were timid. I'd rap, outline the issue, and see them peek anxiously behind me as if Darlene lurked in the shrubs. Can't, Garrett. She'll penalize me. Sorry, I prefer neutrality. My spouse avoids conflict. Secured 14 in week 1. I wondered if I'd erred. Then Marisol appeared at my doorstep Saturday morn with a thermos of cinnamon-scented coffee and resolve in her stare. I've chatted with folks, she said, easing into a veranda chair. The other Latino households, those Darlene's hit with her plant infractions. They're set to sign, but not openly. How many? 47 households. I can collect by Monday if you convene at my place. Safe spot. I could have embraced her. Marisol, you're a hero. She shrugged, tasting her brew. Darlene dinged me $2,000 for hedges 6 inches over. Yet her sister's yard fountain breaks 3 rules. I'm finished staying silent. We reached 73 signs in 11 days. I personally dropped the petition at the HOA office, a tiny structure by the hall, on a Tuesday afternoon. The halftime admin, an elder lady named Ruth, who'd always been decent to me, regarded the pile like a primed explosive. Garrett, she'll flip out. That's the plan. Darlene rang that night. No intro needed. You believe you're smart? Her tone quivered. Anger or dread, unclear. You think this alters a thing? I think it alters all, Darlene. Elections carry weight. You have no idea what you've started. Neither do you. She hung up. The next morning, the HOA posted a notice for an emergency special assessment vote. Apparently, there was a catastrophic plumbing failure in the clubhouse that required immediate repairs, $80,000 to be voted on in 72 hours. I walked over to the clubhouse that afternoon. The pipes looked fine. The bathrooms were immaculate. I took pictures. Darlene wasn't trying to fix plumbing. She was trying to drain the reserve fund before anyone could audit it. And that meant she was desperate, which meant I was getting close to something big. I just had to figure out what. October 23rd, 2:40 in the morning. I woke up to an explosion. Not a huge one, not like the movies, but loud enough that my windows rattled and my brain went from dead asleep to full alert in half a second. Coast Guard training doesn't leave you. I was out of bed pulling on pants before I was fully conscious. Then I smelled it. Smoke, gasoline, burning plastic. Iran outside barefoot, and my dock was an inferno. The Horizon runner was completely engulfed. Flames shooting 15 to 20 FT into the air, roaring like a jet engine. The heat hit me from 30 FT away, so intense I felt my eyebrows singe. The mast cracked with a sound like a gunshot and crashed into the water, hissing and spitting steam. Fiberglass bubbled and melted, dripping into the lake like candle wax. The smell was chemical. Wrong. The kind of stench that gets into your lungs and stays there. I heard myself yelling something. I don't even know what. And then neighbors were running out of their houses. Someone was on the phone with 911. And I just stood there on the grass watching 3 years of work and 5 decades of memories burn down to the waterline. The fire department got there in 14 minutes. Might as well have been 14 hours. By the time they had hoses on it, there was nothing left to save. Just a charred skeleton sitting low in the water, smoke rising into the pre-dawn darkness. The fire marshal showed up at sunrise. Middle-aged guy with tired eyes and a clipboard walking the dock in boots that left wet prints on the blackened planks. He took samples, photos, measurements. Finally, he came over to where I was sitting on my porch steps, wrapped in a blanket someone had given me, staring at nothing. Arson, he said. No preamble, accelerant used. Looks like gasoline. Point of origin was the stern deck. Someone poured it, lit it, ran. Textbook security cameras. I saw them. I'll need the footage. I pulled it up on my phone, hand shaking. The footage showed two figures in dark hoodies at 2:37 a.m., faces completely obscured. They climbed onto the boat, one carrying what looked like a gas can. 30 seconds later, they were running back down the dock. A dark sedan, no visible plates, headlights off, pulled away toward the main exit. The marshal watched it twice. I'll forward this to the sheriff. They'll open an investigation. It was the HOA. He looked at me for a long moment. I can't put that in my report. I can only tell you what the evidence shows. But yeah, off the record, timing suspicious as hell. He left. I sat there as the sun came up, watching smoke curl off the wreckage and felt something break inside my chest. That boat was the last piece of my father I had. The last physical thing that connected me to him, and someone had burned it to ash because I'd embarrassed them on the internet. My insurance adjuster came by that afternoon. Nice enough woman, mid-50s, apologetic in that professional way adjusters are. Mr. Holloway, I'm so sorry. Your policy has a mysterious fire clause. If arson can't be proven conclusively, if no one's arrested, we can only pay depreciated whole value, $22,000. The boat was worth $60,000. I know, I'm sorry. That's the policy. I just nodded. Didn't have the energy to argue. That same day, the HOA posted on their private Facebook group. I didn't see it until someone screenshotted and texted it to me. The post written by Darlene, tragic accident at the marina last night. A reminder that all residents must follow fire safety codes and proper storage of flammable materials. Our thoughts are with those affected. Accident. She called it an accident. By evening, the neighborhood had split into camps. Marisol called to tell me GoFundMe donations were pouring in $11,000 in 4 days. Then she called back an hour later, voice tight. Darlene had reported the fundraiser to GoFundMe as fraudulent and they'd frozen the account pending investigation. 3 families who'd publicly donated told Marisol they'd received HOA violation notices the next day. Suddenly, their mailboxes were non-compliant or their trash cans were left out too long. People were scared to help me. I didn't blame them. Ben drove up that night. Didn't call first. Just showed up and hugged me in my driveway, and I realized I was shaking. Dad, come stay with me, please. These people are dangerous. They didn't want to kill me, honey. They wanted to scare me. Well, it's scaring me. Pack a bag. Come to Raleigh. I almost did. I actually started packing my garage thinking maybe she was right. Maybe Darlene had won. Then I found my father's old Coast Guard operations manual in a box under the workbench. Leather cover, pages yellowed. Inside the front cover, in his handwriting, calm seas never made a skilled sailor. I love you, Dad. I sat on the concrete floor holding that book and grief turned into something colder, sharper. If I couldn't prove they burned my boat, I'd prove something worse. I'd hit Darlene where she actually felt pain, her bank account, her reputation, her freedom. I pulled out my phone and called Theo Barnett. We'd served together in the Coast Guard. He'd gotten out in 2005, became a forensic accountant, and I'd saved his 16-year-old son from drowning during a rescue op in 2003. Theo sent me Christmas cards for a decade afterward. He picked up on the third ring. Garrett, man, it's been forever. Hey, Theo, I need a favor. A big one. It told him everything. When I finished, there was silence. You saved my kid's life, Garrett. Least I can do is sink this woman's career. Send me everything. Financials, bylaws, invoices. I'll take a look. I can't pay you. Then don't call it even. I texted Marisol. Stop the recall petition. We're going bigger. She replied, Kitty Ain. I looked out at the burn dock. I'm going to take everything from her. Every dollar, every bit of power. I'm going to make sure she never does this to anyone else. Marisol sent back a single fire emoji. Fitting. Theo called me back 6 days later. It was a Tuesday evening just after 7. I was sitting on my porch with a beer I wasn't really drinking, staring at the empty space where my dock used to be. The county had made me tear down what was left liability hazard. They said, Yo, Garrett, you sitting down? Yeah, what did you find? A goddamn gold mine. I could hear papers rustling on his end. I've been doing this for 15 years. Corporate fraud, embezzlement, pension theft, and this is amateur hour. She didn't even try to hide it. He walked me through it, and I grabbed a notepad. First, the ghost vendor, Pinnacle Property Solutions, LLC. It had received $127,000 over 30 months for landscaping consultation and community management advisory services. Theo traced the business registration filed with the North Carolina Secretary of State in 2021. The registered agent, Darlene Hurst. Hurst was Darlene's maiden name, the one she used before she married and divorced some guy back in the 90s. It's a shell company, Theo said. No website, no business address except a P.O. box in Wilmington, no employee records. The money goes into Pinnacle's account, then gets transferred to her personal checking within 48 hours every single time. Second, the inflated contracts. Darlene's real estate brokerage, Vicarage Properties, had built the HOA for community management consulting at $340 per hour. Normal rate for that kind of work, $75 to $100, maybe $120 if you're in a major city. Over 2 years, she'd overbilled by roughly $68,000. And here's the kicker. Theo said the board approved these contracts in closed sessions. No homeowner vote, no transparency. That violates your bylaws and North Carolina statute. HOA boards have fiduciary duty. They're supposed to act in the community's best interest, not line their own pockets. Third, the bonuses. The board, Darlene, her sister Paige, and Hank had voted themselves monthly stipends of $800 each. Retroactive for 2 years, $19,000 each, total $57,000. The bylaws required a 2-3 vote of all homeowners for any board compensation. There'd never been a vote. I did the math on my notepad. Even being conservative, we were looking at $195,000 in embezzlement and fraud. Theo, how solid is this? Courtroom solid. I can testify as an expert witness. But Garrett, there's one more thing you need to know. What? Darlene filed for personal bankruptcy in 2019. Chapter 7 discharged $78,000 in credit card and medical debt, so she had motive. She was drowning financially. Then suddenly she's president of an HOA with $1.8 million budget and zero oversight. I leaned back in my chair, watching the sunset over the lake. Can we freeze the HOA's accounts? Not directly, but if you file a complaint with the Secretary of State's Corporate Enforcement Division and report the fraud to the IRS has are tax-exempt under 501c4 and fraud voids that status, the bank will likely freeze accounts pending investigation. It's standard protocol when there's suspected embezzlement. How fast can we do this? I can have the complaint drafted by Thursday. You'll need to file it, and you'll need to send a certified demand to the HOA's bank citing fraudulent transactions. I'll write that letter too, do it. I filed both complaints Friday morning. Secretary of State Corporate Fraud Division IRS Form 3949A for tax-exempt organization fraud. I sent the certified letter to Sunrust, the HOA's bank, with copies of Theo's findings attached. By Monday afternoon, Darlene received the notice. I know because Marisol called me laughing. Garrett, she just left the HOA office screaming into her phone. Something about the bank freezing the accounts. What did you do? Pulled the plug. SunTrust's fraud department had opened an investigation. All HO accounts operating in reserve were frozen pending resolution. Darlene couldn't access a single dollar, couldn't pay the part-time groundskeeper, couldn't pay for the clubhouse's upcoming roof repair, couldn't pay her law firm. The board called an emergency meeting for Wednesday. I didn't go. Didn't need to. Marisol went, though, and recorded the audio on her phone. Darlene was panicking, trying to transfer TheraServe fund to a new account at a different bank. The bank blocked it. Investigation active. All assets frozen. Thursday morning, a white BMW pulled into my driveway. Darlene got out, no makeup, hair uncombed, wearing yoga pants and a stained t-shirt. She looked 10 years older than the last time I'd seen her. She walked up to my porch. I stayed seated. Please, she said, her voice cracked. Call them off. The banks, the state, all of it. I'll resign. I'll leave. Just stop. I looked at her for a long moment. Thought about my father's boat. Thought about the spray paint, the lawsuit, the fire. You should have thought of that before you burned my father's boat. I stood up, walked inside, and closed the door. Through the window, I watched her stand there for a full minute before she walked back to her car, shoulders shaking. I didn't feel good about it, but I didn't feel bad either. 2 nights later, 6 of us sat around Marisol's kitchen table. It was almost 1,000 p.m. and the house smelled like reheated tamales and strong coffee. Marisol's kids were asleep upstairs, and we'd spread documents across every available surface. HOA financials, bylaws, bank statements, legal statutes printed from the library. Theo was on Marisol's laptop via Zoom, his face pixelated but his voice clear. Next to me sat Deputy Tom Crowley, technically off-duty, but still in his uniform because he'd come straight from his shift. Across from us was Evelyn Frost, 68 years old, retired paralegal, HOA resident, and the sharpest legal mind I'd ever met who wasn't a lawyer. She'd brought 3 banker's boxes full of case files and precedents, her reading glasses perched on her nose. And Marisol, of course, pouring coffee and taking notes in Aspiral notebook with handwriting so neat it looked printed. "All right," I said. Darlene's desperate. "The accounts are frozen. She can't pay her legal team, and she knows we have evidence. She's going to come at us hard. So, we need to hit her from every angle at once. Legal, financial, criminal, and public. Overwhelm her defenses." Evelyn looked up from a document she'd been reading. "I've seen this strategy work in corporate litigation. You file simultaneous actions across multiple jurisdictions. It's expensive for the defendant to fight on all fronts. They make mistakes." "Exactly," Theo said through the laptop speaker. "And Darlene's already made plenty." We spent the next 3 hours building the plan. Evelyn called it Operation Clean Sweep, which I thought was corny as hell, but Marisol loved it, so the name stuck. The legal front was Evelyn's domain. She'd already drafted a demand letter to every board member individually, not as a group, informing them of their personal liability for breach of fiduciary duty. North Carolina law is clear. Board members can be held personally responsible for financial misconduct. Their homes, their savings, everything was fair game if we won a civil suit. The key, Evelyn explained, stirring sugar into her coffee, is to offer immunity to whoever cooperates first. Paige is the weak link. She's terrified. I know her daughter helped her through a landlord dispute 2 years ago. I can leverage that relationship. She'd deliver the letters via process server Monday morning. Couldn't claim they didn't receive them that way. Theo handled the financial front. He'd already filed the complaint with the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division, but now he was escalating. The AG's office had a dedicated HOA fraud task force. Apparently, this kind of thing was common enough to warrant its own team. They'd assigned a prosecutor, an assistant AG named Vivian Cho, who had a reputation for crushing white-collar criminals. Cho's team will audit everything, Theo said. Bank records, tax filings, vendor contracts. It'll take them about 2 weeks. If they find what I found, and they will, Darlene's looking at criminal charges, embezzlement, fraud, tax evasion. How much time could she get? Marisol asked. Felony embezzlement in North Carolina. 5 to 10 years, depending on the amount. She's over 100K. That's serious time. Deputy Crowley leaned forward, elbows on the table. I've been talking to the State Bureau of Investigation about the arson. Quietly, the local sheriff's department doesn't have the resources for this kind of case, but SBI does. They're interested, especially with the security footage and the timeline. They want to bring in Darlene's son for questioning. Trey, I said, you think he did it? I think Darlene asked him to, and I think he was dumb enough to say yes. Crowley pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. I ran his juvie record sealed, but I have access. 2 arrests for arson when he was 16 and 17. Burning trash cans, an abandoned shed, got counseling, charges dropped. But it's a pattern. My stomach tightened. You think SBI can prove it? If they question him, he'll fold. Kids is not smart. And if they Lennon him offer a deal, he'll give up his mom. The social front was mine and Marisol's. We'd organize a town hall meeting, not an HOA meeting, but a community gathering open to all residents plus local press. The community center rented their main hall for $150. We'd present all the evidence publicly. Theo's financial analysis, the ghost vendor, the embezzlement, everything. Let the court of public opinion weigh in before the actual courts did. We invite the media, I said. You News and Observer, local bloggers. Make it impossible for Darlene to control the narrative. And we record everything, Marisol added. Live stream it on Facebook. Transparency all the way. Evelyn smiled. It was not a warm smile. She'll panic. She'll try to stop it, maybe threaten legal action, but she can't. It's a public venue, public information, and she's a public figure by virtue of being HOA president. I looked around the table. A retired paralegal, a forensic accountant on a laptop, a deputy sheriff, a landscaper, and a burned-out Coast Guard vet. We looked like a bad heist movie. But we had something Darlene didn't. We were right. We had proof, and we had nothing left to lose. "When do we move?" Crowley asked. "Monday," I said. "One day Evelyn serves the letters. Theo submits the AG evidence. I reserve the community center and send press releases. We schedule the town hall for 2 weeks out December 18th, gives the AG time to start the audit, gives SBI time to question Trey, and gives Darlene just enough rope to hang herself." "What if she runs?" Marisol asked. Evelyn shook her head. "She won't. She's too arrogant. She thinks she can talk her way out of this. People like Darlene always do, right up until the handcuffs click." We broke up around midnight. Crowley left first, then Evelyn with her boxes of files. Thea logged off with a promise to have the AG submission ready by Sunday night. Marisol walked me to the door. "You really think this will work?" "I think we're about to find out." She hugged me quick, fierce. "Your dad would be proud." I drove home through empty streets, past the lake where my dock used to be, and for the first time since the fire, I felt something other than rage. I felt hope. Darlene didn't wait long to strike back. Monday morning, I woke up to my phone blowing up. 17 missed calls, 34 text messages, all from different neighbors. I scrolled through them, my coffee going cold on the counter, and felt my blood pressure spike. Darlene had posted something on the HOA's Facebook group at 6 a.m. Screenshots were flooding my texts. It was a doctored email supposedly from me, dated 2 weeks before the fire. The text read, "You'll regret crossing me, Darlene. I promise you that. You have no idea what I'm capable of." Except I'd never written that email. The font was wrong. The spacing was off. And my actual email address had a hyphen in it that this one didn't. But to someone scrolling Facebook at dawn, it looked real enough. Her post above the screenshot. "I've been trying to handle this privately, but I can no longer stay silent. Garrett Holloway has been threatening me for months. I fear for my safety and my family's safety. I've reported this to authorities and am considering a restraining order. Please keep your distance from this individual." By noon, I had 3 separate homeowners file formal complaints with the sheriff's department. Anonymous calls claiming I'd been acting erratically and making threats. Deputy Crowley had to come by and take statements procedure, even though he knew it was garbage. "This is harassment, Tom. I know, but I have to follow up on complaints." "You know that." He closed his notepad. "For what it's worth, the email is obviously fake. Wrong metadata. Suspicious timing. Any decent investigator would toss this in 5 seconds. But damage was done. People who'd been on the fence about supporting me were now nervous. I saw it when I went to the grocery store that afternoon. Neighbors who used to wave now avoided eye contact. One guy I'd taught his kid to sail actually crossed the street when he saw me coming. Darlene wasn't done either. That same day, someone registered a Google business listing for Garrett's Dock Services, a company I've never owned, and flooded it with 1-star reviews. Took my deposit and disappeared. Shoddy work. Refused to fix mistakes, threatened me when I asked for a refund. All posted within a 3-hour window, all from brand new accounts. I reported it to Google. They said it would take 7 to 10 business days to investigate. Meanwhile, Darlene hired some reputation management firm out of Charlotte. Suddenly, if you Googled my name, the first 3 results were these fake reviews and a Yelp page for a Garrett Holloway contracting that had never existed. My actual LinkedIn profile was buried on page 2. She'd spent serious money on this probably $8,000-10,000 money she'd stolen from the HOA now being used to destroy my credibility. Then the whisper campaign started. Marisol heard it first at her kid's school pickup. One of the other moms, nice lady lived 4 streets over, pulled her aside and said quietly, "Is it true Garrett burned his own boat for the insurance money?" Marisol almost threw her coffee at her. "What number? Who told you that?" "I heard it at book club. Someone said Darlene mentioned it that there's an investigation." By Wednesday, that rumor had spread to half the neighborhood. I got a call from my insurance adjuster annoyed saying they'd received an anonymous tip about potential fraud and had to extend their investigation another 2 weeks. I knew exactly who'd made that call. Thursday, 3 homeowners filed formal complaints with the sheriff claiming I was harassing Darlene. Different people, same day, same language in their statements. Coordinated the sheriff, not Crowley. His boss called me in for an interview. I brought Evelyn, who explained calmly and thoroughly that this was a retaliatory campaign by someone facing criminal charges. The sheriff listened, looked tired and told me to stay away from Mrs. Vickridge and let the legal system handle this. I haven't been anywhere near her. Good. Keep it that way. I walked out of that office feeling like I was drowning. Darlene had flipped the script. Suddenly, I was the bad guy, the unstable veteran with a grudge, the one people needed to be protected from. Friday afternoon, Theo called with more bad news. Garrett, someone tried to bribe me. What? LinkedIn message came in this morning from a Vickridge offered me $25,000 to reevaluate my findings and issue a revised report saying the HOA finances were clean, used the phrase consulting fee. I sat down hard in my kitchen chair. She's that stupid. Apparently screenshotted everything and forwarded it to AG Cho. This is a separate crime witness tampering obstruction of justice. Cho's adding it to the case file. At least that was something. Every time Darlene tried to stop us, she dug herself deeper. But in the moment, it didn't feel like winning. It felt like getting punched in the face repeatedly while waiting for the referee to call a foul. Saturday night, someone slashed all 4 tires on my truck, parked in my own driveway. No cameras caught it. They'd parked out of frame. Come up from the side yard. Sunday morning, Marisol's landscaping truck got hit, spray painted across the side panel, a slur I won't repeat. She called me in tears, not from sadness, but from rage. They came to my house, Garrett, where my kids sleep. I know I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Let's bury her. That afternoon, Evelyn called with better news. Paige had cracked. She showed up at my house this morning, Evelyn said, scared out of her mind. Said she got the demand letter, talked to a lawyer, realized she could go to prison. She wants immunity. Did you tell her we can't promise that? I told her we'd recommend leniency to the AG if she cooperates fully. That was enough. She's providing everything. Emails, bank records, board meeting recordings she made secretly. And Garrett, she gave us the smoking gun, which is an email from Darlene to Paige dated 2 days before the fire. Quote, code the Pinnacle payments as landscaping Missy and don't itemize. And don't worry about the boat situation. I'm handling it personally. I closed my eyes. She wrote that down. Criminals always think they're smarter than they are. Paige also said Darlene bragged about the fire at a family dinner. Said it solved the problem. Will Paige testify? She already gave a sworn affidavit to AG Cho. She's terrified, but she'll testify. I hung up and walked out to where my dock used to be. The sun was setting, painting the lake orange and gold. In 2 days, we'd hold the town hall. In 2 days, this would either end or escalate into something worse. He thought about Darlene, frantic and desperate, making mistake after mistake. My father used to say, the most dangerous part of any rescue operation is when the victim starts panicking. That's when they fight you, drag you under, make everything worse. Darlene was panicking, which meant we were close. December rolled in cold and gray, the kind of weather where the sky looks like concrete and the lake turned slate-colored and mean. 2 weeks until the town hall and the state investigation was moving faster than any of us expected. Ag Cho called me on a Tuesday morning while I was replacing the tires on my truck. $400 I didn't have. But what choice did I have? Mr. Holloway, this is Assistant Attorney General Vivian Cho. Do you have a few minutes? I wiped grease off my hands with a shop rag. Yeah, what's up? We've completed our preliminary audit of the Emerald Shores HOA. I want to walk you through what we found because some of this will become public record soon, and you should hear it from me first. I sat down on my porch steps, the cold concrete seeping through my jeans. She laid it out methodically. The audit confirmed everything Theo had found, plus more. The ghost vendor payments totaled $127,000. The inflated consulting contracts to Darlene's brokerage added another $68,000. The illegal board stipends were $57,000. But here's what Theo had missed. The HOA's tax filings were fraudulent. For 3 years running, Darlene had underreported the HOA's income by roughly $110,000 total. Filed false 990 forms with the IRS, federal tax fraud on top of state embezzlement. We also pulled her personal financial records, Cho continued. She filed for bankruptcy in 2019, discharged $78,000 in debt. Then 6 months after becoming HOA president, she starts making cash deposits. Over the next 2 years, she bought a condo in Myrtle Beach, paid $340,000 cash, and a new Lexus. No mortgage, no auto loan. Her real estate commissions for that period may be $70,000 a year pre-tax. The math doesn't work unless she had another income source. The HOA, I said. Exactly. We're issuing subpoenas this week. Darlene, her sister Paige, Hank Morales, the VP, all bank records, personal and business. We'll have formal charges ready by mid-January. What kind of charges? Felony embezzlement, multiple counts, fraud, tax evasion, witness tampering for the bribery attempt on your forensic accountant. Conservatively, she's looking at 7 to 10 years if convicted. I let that sink in. 7 to 10 years for burning my boat and stealing from 340 families. It almost felt like enough. Cho wasn't done. There's one more thing. We contacted the State Bureau of Investigation about the arson. They brought in Darlene's son, Trey Vickridge, for questioning yesterday. My heart kicked up and hell-lawyered up immediately, which is smart. But before his attorney arrived, he said something interesting. The investigator asked him where he was the night of October 23rd. He said he was home. Then the investigator showed him the security footage, the dark sedan leaving the marina. Trey went pale and said, "I want a lawyer." That's not a confession. No, but his car is a dark blue Honda Accord. We're getting a warrant for it, checking for gasoline residue, forensic evidence, and we're offering him a deal. Testify against his mother, reduced charges, 3 years versus 15. You think he'll take it? His lawyer's already reached out. Off the record, yeah, he's 27, unemployed, living in his mother's basement. He doesn't want to do 15 years for mommy's vendetta. After I hung up, I just sat there for a while, watching my breath steam in the cold air. It was happening. The walls were closing in on Darlene from every direction. State, federal, criminal, civil, and she knew it, which made her more dangerous. That afternoon, local news hit. Wana segment. Lakeside HOA president under investigation for embezzlement. They didn't name Darlene specifically, ongoing investigation, but everyone knew. The story showed B-roll footage of the Emerald Shores entrance sign and the clubhouse. They interviewed AG Cho, who gave a carefully worded statement about financial misconduct by HOA leadership. The segment ended with, "The Attorney General's office says charges are expected in the coming weeks." My phone exploded. Texts from neighbors, some apologizing for avoiding me, others asking questions, a few still defending Darlene. Marisol sent me a link to the HOA Facebook group, which had gone from private to total meltdown. People demanding Darlene resign immediately, others claiming this was all a conspiracy. One guy threatened to sue the entire board for mismanaging his dues. Darlene tried to hold a press conference that evening. It was a disaster. She did it at her real estate brokerage. Marisol drove by and recorded it on her phone. Sent me the video. Darlene stood in front of a banner that said, "Vickridge Properties, your lakeside experts." Her makeup too heavy, her smile too tight. A local news crew and maybe a dozen people showed up. "I've dedicated 11 years of my life to the Emerald Shores community," she said, reading from notes. "These allegations are politically motivated. This is a witch hunt by a disgruntled former resident who, you mean the guy whose boat burned down?" Someone shouted from the back. Darlene faltered. "That was investigated. It was ruled accidental. Arson, actually," the same voice said. "I think it was Marisol." Darlene's face went red. "This audit is biased. The Attorney General is an elected official with an agenda. So you didn't embezzle $195,000, a reporter this time. Those are allegations, not facts. Did you or did you not operate a shell company called Pinnacle Property Solutions?" Darlene's hands started shaking. The paper slipped. She bent to pick them up. And when she stood, there were tears running down her face, cutting tracks through her foundation. "I've given everything to this community," she said, voice breaking. "Everything, and this is how you repay me." She walked off camera. The video ended. It went viral locally. 347,000 views in 2 days. TikTok, Facebook, local news sites. The comments were brutal. Someone made it into a meme with the caption, "When the HOA president realizes embezzlement has consequences." I should have felt good about it, vindicated, but mostly I just felt tired. 3 days later, Darlene's real estate brokerage, Coldwell Banker franchise, quietly removed her profile from their website. Then they issued a statement. "Darlene Vickridge has been placed on administrative leave pending resolution of personal legal matters. Coldwell Banker takes ethics seriously and is cooperating fully with authorities." Translation: they were cutting her loose. Hank, the VP, hired a lawyer and reached out to Ag Cho's office the same day. His attorney sent Evelyn a courtesy email. Hank was cooperating fully, providing documents, and would testify if needed. He claimed he didn't know about the embezzlement, just signed papers Darlene put in front of him. Plausible, maybe convenient, definitely. But the real bombshell came from SBI. Deputy Crowley called me Friday afternoon. Garrett, SBI just executed a warrant on Travik's car. Found a gas can in the trunk residue on the upholstery. Forensics matched it to the accelerant used in your boat fire. I gripped the phone. They got him. They got him. He's taking a deal. 3 years, full testimony. And here's the part you need to hear. They found text messages between Trey and his mother. Night of October 20th, 3 days before the fire. Darlene texted, "Need you to handle the boat situation." "Make it look like an accident? Scare him good." She texted that on her personal phone. SBI has the warrant. Pulled all her records. She also Googled how to commit arson without getting caught and statute of limitations property damage North Carolina. All logged. I closed my eyes and saw the Horizon runner burning, smelled the gasoline and melted fiberglass. Felt the heat on my face. When are they arresting her? Monday. Charges are felony arson, conspiracy, insurance fraud. On top of everything the AG's office is bringing. Garrett, she's done. Completely done. I sat down on my couch, phone still pressed to my ear. "Tom, thank you for everything. You did this, man. You and your team." I just pushed paper. After I hung up, I walked out to the empty dock space. The sun was setting again, turning the water orange and gold. In 3 days, we'd hold the town hall, but it felt almost anticlimactic now. The real battle was already won. Darlene had burned my father's boat to silence me. Instead, she'd burned down her entire life. December 18th, 7:00 p.m. The community center was packed. I'd reserved the main hall for 150 people. 312 showed up. Folks were standing along the back wall, sitting in the aisles, crowding the doorway. The fire marshal probably should have shut us down, but Deputy Crowley in uniform positioned near the front gave him a look and he let it slide. Every seat was filled. I recognized maybe 60% of the faces Emerald Shores residents, neighbors I'd waved to for 2 years. The other 40% were outsiders drawn by the news coverage. I spotted 2 W cameras setting up in the back corner. A reporter from the News and Observer sat in the 3rd row with a notepad. 3 local bloggers had their phones out live streaming to Facebook. Marisol had set up a projector and screen at the front. Evelyn sat in the front row with 3 accordion folders of documents. Theo was on a laptop via Zoom again, his face on a small monitor we'd positioned on a side table. Ag Cho sat in the 2nd row. She didn't have to be here, but she'd come anyway. Sent a message. And in the back corner, trying to be inconspicuous and failing completely, sat Darlene Vicrage. She'd come alone, no lawyer, no sister, no friends. She wore a black pantsuit that looked expensive, but hung wrong on her frame like she'd lost weight. Her hair was pulled back tight, no makeup. She looked small and brittle, a ceramic figurine 1 crack away from shattering. Next to her, people had left 2 empty seats on either side. Nobody wanted to sit near her. I stood at the podium and waited for the room to quiet. It took a full minute. When I finally spoke, my voice carried clear and steady Coast Guard training, projecting without yelling. "Good evening. My name is Garrett Holloway. Most of you know me. Some of you have probably heard things about me over the last few months, some true, some not. Tonight, I'm going to show you what's true, and I'm going to show you what your HOA board has been doing with your money." I clicked to the first slide. A photo of the Horizon runner before the fire, gleaming white hull teak deck. My father standing on Iton 1989, grinning at the camera. This was my father's boat. He died 5 years ago. I spent 3 years restoring it. On October 23rd, someone burned it to the waterline. This is what it looked like the next morning. Next slide. The charred wreckage, smoke still rising, the mast collapsed into the water. A collective intake of breath rippled through the room. The fire marshal ruled it arson. Gasoline was used as accelerant. Security footage showed 2 people fleeing the scene. Law enforcement now has a suspect in custody who has confessed. That person was hired by someone in this room to destroy my property. I didn't look at Darlene. Didn't need to. Every head in the room turned toward the back corner. But this isn't just about my boat. This is about what happens when people in power think they're untouchable. So let me show you where your money went. Next slide. The chart Theo had made showing money flowing from HOA accounts to Pinnacle Property Solutions. Over 30 months, your HOA paid $127,000 to a company called Pinnacle Property Solutions. This company has no website, no employees, no physical address except a P.O. box. It was registered by Darling Vickridge under her maiden name. It's a shell company. The money went in and waste transferred to her personal account within 48 hours. Every time, murmurs now louder. Someone in the middle shouted, "That's our money." "Yes, it is." Here's more. I clicked through the next slides. The inflated consulting contracts, $68,000 in overcharges. Thale Legal Board stipends, $57,000. The under-report-ported tax filings, federal fraud. Each slide was clean, simple, damning. Total estimated theft, $195,000. That's your dues money. Money you paid for community maintenance, for roads, for the clubhouse. It went into Darlene Vickridge's pocket. She used it to buy a condo in Myrtle Beach and a new car. The room was getting loud now. People standing up shouting questions. I held up my hand. "I know you're angry." "You should be. But here's the good news. The North Carolina Attorney General has completed a full audit. Criminal charges are being filed. Felony embezzlement, fraud, tax evasion, witness tampering, and thanks to evidence provided by board members who chose to cooperate. I glanced at Paige, who was sitting near the middle looking like she wanted to disappear. The state has everything it needs for prosecution. Ajit Cho stood up. The room went silent. "Good evening. I'm Assistant Attorney General Vivian Cho. I'm here in an unofficial capacity, but I want to confirm what Mr. Holloway just told you. My office has completed its investigation. We will be filing charges against Darlene Vickridge next week. I can't discuss specifics, but I can tell you this. When board members steal from their community, we take it seriously. Your HOA will recover these funds through restitution and civil action. Mrs. Vickridge's assets, her properties, her accounts will be seized to repay what was stolen." Applause broke out. Not polite applause, raw, angry, cathartic clapping. It went on for 30 seconds. Then someone in the back yelled, "What about the boat? Did she burn his boat?" The room went quiet again. Cho looked at me. I nodded. "The State Bureau of Investigation has arrested Trey Vickridge in connection with the arson," Cho said carefully. "He has confessed and is cooperating with investigators. Evidence indicates he was acting at the direction of another party. Additional arrests are forthcoming." Every eye turned to Darlene. She stood up suddenly, chair scraping loud in the silence. Her face was red, blotchy, mascara running, even though I didn't think she'd been crying. "This is a lie," she said, voice shaking. "All of it. He's lying. That boat was a piece of junk. Probably insurance fraud." "Sit down, Mrs. Vickridge," Cho said, not loud but sharp as a knife. "I've given 11 years. "You've stolen for 11 years, I said. Quiet, cold, every word clear. "You stole money. You stole time. You stole my father's legacy. And when I stood up to you, you tried to destroy me. You failed." Darlene's mouth opened, closed. She looked around the room like she was searching for allies and finding none. Everyone was staring at her with expressions ranging from disgust to pity. She grabbed her purse and pushed toward the exit. People moved aside to let her pass, pressing back against the walls like she was contagious. She stumbled once, caught herself, and then she was gone. The door swinging shut behind her. Nobody said anything for a solid 10 seconds. Then Marisol stood up. "I move that we dissolve the current HOA board immediately and hold emergency elections in 30 days. Seconded. 3 people shouted it simultaneously. I looked at Evelyn. She stood, pulled out a printed sheet. "According to your bylaws, a vote of no confidence requires 51% of homeowners present at a valid meeting. We have 223 homeowners here tonight. Show of hands all in favor of dissolving the current board." A forest off hands shot up. I didn't count, but it looked like 200. Motion carries. Evelyn said the board is dissolved effective immediately. Nominations for interim leadership are now open. The meeting went another hour. They elected Marisol interim president, Evelyn interim treasurer. Voted to hire an independent management company. Voted to sue Darlene personally for the full amount plus legal fees. Voted to reduce dues by $80 a month once the mismanaged funds were recovered. At 9:30, people started filtering out. A dozen folks came up to shake my hand, apologize for doubting me, thank me for standing up. The W reporter asked for an interview. I gave her 5 minutes, kept it simple. By 10 p.m., it was just me, Marisol, Evelyn, and Crowley left, folding chairs and breaking down the projector. "You know the weird thing," I said, stacking chairs against the wall. I don't feel as good as I thought I would. Marisol laughed, tired. That's because you're not a psychopath. Revenge doesn't actually feel great. Justice feels, I don't know, quiet. Expensive too, Evelyn said, packing her folders. But worth it, Crowley clapped me on the shoulder. For what it's worth, Garrett, you did good. Most people would have just moved. Yeah, well, I'm stubborn. Well, locked up the community center and walked out into the cold December night. The parking lot was empty except for our cars. Overhead, stars were visible for the first time in weeks, sharp and bright against the black sky. I drove home past the lake, past the empty space where my dock had been, and pulled into my driveway. There was a note tucked under my windshield wiper, handwritten on lined paper. Thank you. You freed us all. A neighbor. I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. Then I went inside, made a cup of tea, and slept better than I had in 3 months. February came, and with it the verdicts. Darlene Vickridge was indicted on 17 counts. Felony, embezzlement, fraud, tax evasion, witness tampering, conspiracy to commit arson, and insurance fraud. Her lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. A judge rejected it. They went to trial in April. The trial lasted 6 days. I testified on day 3, walked the jury through the timeline, the fake violations, the burned boat, the frozen accounts. Paige testified on day 4, shaking but resolute, reading from the emails Darlene had sent. Trey testified on day 5, describing how his mother had asked him to send a message and handed him $200 cash for gas and a road flare. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on 14 counts, not guilty on 3. The jury didn't think she'd personally known about all of Trey's actions. Gave her that much benefit of the doubt. The judge sentenced her in May, 7 years in state prison, eligible for parole in 4. $195,000 in restitution to the HOA, $48,000 in Fenesto the state, $38,000 directly to me for the boat. She stood there in an orange jumpsuit, hands scuffed in front of her, and didn't say a word. Didn't look at anyone, just stared straight ahead while the bailiff led her out. Her Myrtle Beach condo was foreclosed the following week. The proceeds, $310,000 after legal fees, went into the HOA's recovery fund. Her Lexus was auctioned. Her real estate license was revoked. Trey Vickridge took his plea deal. 3 years out and 2 with good behavior. Last I heard, he was doing his time quietly, working in the prison kitchen. The HOA recovered almost everything. Between the asset seizures, the restitution order, and a successful civil suit, the community got back every dollar Darlene had stolen. The new board, Marisol as president, Evelyn as treasurer, 4 other residents I'd never met, but who seemed competent, used the money wisely. They resurfaced the neighborhood roads, $80,000. Installed a new playground near the clubhouse, $35,000. Fixed the actual clubhouse plumbing that Darlene had been ignoring for years, $18,000. And with the remaining funds, $80,000, they created an endowment, the Horizon Scholarship, $5,000 annually to a local high school senior pursuing a career in maritime services. Coast Guard, Marine Corps, commercial fishing, naval architecture, anything connected to the water, named after my father's boat. First recipient was a kid from the next county over, daughter of a shrimper. Wanted to join the Coast Guard. Bryn and I presented the check at a little ceremony in June. I shook the girl's hand and saw my father in her eyes. That hunger to be part of something bigger than yourself. I rebuilt my dock in March, used some of the restitution money, did most of the work myself. It's stronger than the old own. Treated lumber and stainless hardware. Built to last another 30 years. I haven't bought a new boat yet. I will eventually, taking my time. Sometimes I sit on the dock in the evenings with a beer and just watch the water. It's enough. I started teaching sailing lessons again in April. Borrowed boats from the yacht club, same as before. 6 kids this summer, ages 9 to 14. We spent Saturday mornings on the lake, learning points of sail and how to read the wind. One of them asked me why I kept teaching for free. Because someone taught me for free once, I said, and that's how it works. Marisol's landscaping business is thriving. She hired 2 full-time employees and bought a second truck. We grab coffee sometimes, laugh about the absurdity of it all. She calls me El Contador, the accountant, because of the spreadsheets. I call her Madam President. She threatens to fine me for improper hedge height. We're good. Evelyn still sends me articles about HOA fraud cases in other states with notes like, "See, we're not crazy." She's become the neighborhood's unofficial legal advisor. People bring her their problems. She helps for free. Just likes being useful. Deputy Crowley got promoted to sergeant. Sends me Christmas cards now. Bryn visits twice a month instead of once. Sometimes she brings her boyfriend architect too. Nice guy. Little boring, but treats her well. They're talking about getting engaged. She asked if I'd walk her down the aisle when the time comes. I said, obviously I'm dating someone sort of. Her name's Claire. She's a chef at a bistro downtown. Evelyn's niece. We've been on 6 dates. It's casual, nice. She makes me laugh. Doesn't ask too many questions about the past and bakes bread that smells like heaven. We'll see where it goes. The other day, I got an email from someone 3 states away, a guy in a Florida HOA dealing with a corrupt board. He'd read about my case in the news, wanted advice. I spent an hour on the phone with him, walked him through FOIA requests, sunshine laws, how to find a forensic accountant. Did it feel worth it? He asked at the end. All that time and stress and money. I thought about my father's boat burning. Thought about standing in front of 300 people and watching a tyrant collapse. Thought about a scholarship with my father's name on it. Funding some kid's dream every year forever. Yeah, I said it was worth it. I still think about Darlene sometimes. Wonder if she thinks about what she lost. Not the money or the freedom, but the chance to just be decent. To use her power to help people instead of crushing them. It was all right there. She could have been a good HOA president. She chose something else. But that's not my problem anymore. Spring turned to summer. Summer to fall. The lake looks different now. Cleaner somehow. Lighter. Or maybe that's just me. I carved my father's initials into the new dock post. Shimei James Michael Holloway. Bryn came down for a weekend and hammered the final nail, a little copper one I'd saved for her. We spread the last of his sashes that evening at sunset from a borrowed sailboat. Just the 2 of us on the water, the sky turning pink and orange, the smell of coming autumn in the air. He'd be proud of you, Dad, Bryn said. I hope so, I know so. The ashes scattered across the water caught the light for a moment, then disappeared into the lake he'd loved, into the place that was home. Now I know some of you watching this have your own HOA nightmares. Maybe you're living one right now. So here's what I need you to do. Drop your HOA horror story in the comments below. Let's build a library of these things. Let's show people they're not alone. And if you're fighting a corrupt board right now, document everything. Save every email. Record every meeting your state allows. They're counting on you giving up. Don't. And if this story got you fired up, hit that subscribe button. Next week, I'm telling you about the landlord who illegally evicted a single mom, so she bought his entire building and evicted him. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and remember, calm seas never made a skilled sailor. We appreciate you spending your time with us on HOA Stories, where HOA cars finally get checked. If you enjoyed today's drama, hit like, comment on your favorite part below, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll be the first to catch our next HOA showdown.